2. 1, 2. And there you are. Hello, I'm Elliot. This is now streaming live on Facebook and YouTube for this Friday. Thank you for joining us. Boy, got a lot to talk about this week. First of all, we're going to be talking about, as you saw with the ad that we sent out just a little bit earlier, we're going to be talking about Jeffery Epstein. That is Epstein. Some people sometimes get the name a little crossed up. Epstein, like two E's. And the controversy surrounding that. A lot of controversy going out there this week, and still going on. A lot of conspiracy theory surrounding his death, what might have happened. And we'd like to get you in on the conversation. As always, of course, we have our phone lines open. We've got 5 phone lines open tonight. 5. So use them up. 443-505-7560. 443-505-7560. We're going to want to hear what you have to think about this whole controversy coming up in just a little while. But before we get on to that, let's examine some of the things that have been going on now for this past week. First of all, if you have stocks, have any interest in stocks, have any stocks that you're invested in, you're probably a little nervous right now, like the rest of us. It has been, well, it's been a tough couple of months, to tell you the truth, for stocks. But just this past Wednesday, the stock market fell 800 points. That's nearly unprecedented. But even more so, there was what the economists like to call a key indicator that tripped at about the same time on that Wednesday that seemed to suggest, or at least according to economists, seemed to suggest that we're facing a recession, or a recession is on the way. That indicator, and you might have heard about this, is called the yield inversion. Don't be afraid. I hadn't heard about it either until we reported on it this past week. Yield inversion. What you see here on the graph in the back is a graph of what essentially the yield inversion has when it's popped up. According to economists, it's popped up for the past 4 or 5 recessions, going back to 1978. And what has happened is, what you're looking at, if we can get the bottom line of the graph, is that shortly before each recession, let's just take the most recent one in 2008, 2009. Shortly before that happened, the yield inversion occurred, and it again suggested that a recession was on the way. And damn it, it came. So they're saying the same thing is true coming up. What it is, if I understand this correctly, and again, we don't have to get into the weeds about this, but they're essentially saying that the T-bonds, treasury bonds, come in 2 flavors, 2-year, 10-year, as you see at the top there. When the 10-year should yield better than the 2-year. When it goes in reverse, when the 2-year yields or is suggested to yield more than the 10-year, then it's kind of inverted, hence the name inversion. And when that happens, it's something that economists don't like. So for the Trump administration, that's not a good deal. That's not a good deal at all, because keep in mind, right now, with everything going on with the White House in the past 3 years in this administration, the one thing that they have to hold on to is the economy. The economy appears to be strong. The president wants to let you know that it is, whether you feel that or not when you sit around your kitchen table. But he can point to a good jobs report. Unemployment is down, and there are some people, at least people who own businesses, who are making money. So many people who you'll talk to, you'll ask, well, is this the guy you're going to vote for in 2020? Well, yeah, not real crazy about everything else he's doing, but the economy is good, and they'll always point to that. So if, in fact, what we see here does bear out, and it is a precursor to a recession, that could spell a lot of trouble for the administration coming up, because it's the only thing that they have to hang their hat on. This was something that came up just in the past couple of days. The 2 young women who you see on your left there, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, freshman congresswomen, they both were on their way to a trip to Israel, fact-finding mission, which Congress people and lawmakers do all the time. The gentleman on your right, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, told him, no, can't do that. We don't like the way you've been talking about Israel. We don't particularly care for your support of the Palestinian cause, particularly Congresswoman Tlaib, who is from there. She immigrated, her family immigrated from the West Bank, and she doesn't particularly care for what's going on over there, and has spoken out about it publicly and vigorously. And Ilhan Omar along with her. So as a result, Benjamin Netanyahu refused them entry to Israel. That is unprecedented. Absolutely unprecedented, because for the most part, you can, if you're a congressperson, a lawmaker from the United States, you're pretty much welcome anywhere you want to go in the world. Continental United States, any place else for that matter, because of your stature, and because of the stature, because of the the stature of the U.S., of the United States. You're welcome anywhere, even sometimes with our enemies. But in this case, we're talking about Israel, a long-standing ally, probably our chief ally, one of our chief allies in the world, and long-time ally, and a nation who we support with my tax dollars and yours as well. And here, Benjamin Netanyahu tells them that they can't enter the country. Really? And I say that because here's the rub. You've got both these congresswomen and all the people who they work with on a day-to-day basis. Remember, the House, Congress owns the purse strings of the U.S. And particularly, they get to decide who we give money to. When that check goes to this guy over here, they're the ones who make that happen. Now, they're not a member of the committee. The particular committee is called the House Appropriations Committee. When they meet and they decide who's going to get money. And it would seem to me that if you denied me entrance to your state, your country, when it comes time for me to give you money, you going to give them money? Hell no. So they're in a lot of trouble. Just this morning, Netanyahu reversed position on Rashida Tlaib, the young woman wearing the glasses, if you're not familiar with them. She, again, is from the West Bank. Her people are from the West Bank. And she said part of the reason she was going over there was to see family. She has a 90-year-old grandmother who's there, from what we understand, who she wanted to visit, wanted to talk to, and thought, at 90, I may not get another chance to see her. So this morning, the state of Israel reversed its position with her and said, okay, for humanitarian reasons, we will allow you entry into the state of Israel. However, you cannot talk bad about us. You can't pump up or support the Palestinian cause. You can't do anything political when you're here. You can just go see your grandmother and go see grandma and get the hell out of here. So, but you can come. Just Rashida Tlaib. So they sent her, and they had reversed that this morning. This afternoon, Miss Tlaib said, thanks, but no thanks. I ain't coming. Not going to do it. And good on her, because what she felt was that if I have to go over and I have to muzzle myself, I have to go under those conditions, I cannot assess the political will of the people who I'm talking to and support them and make that position known while I'm there. I'm just not going. Not going to do it. And oh, by the way, my granny, who I was going to see, she supports me. Sounds like Granny's a real pistol. So Granny wouldn't have liked it either. What do you think about that? Call now, 443-505-7560. I see we've got a couple of people in chat. If you're in chat, by the way, go ahead and just tell me that you're in chat. Say hi. Just type in there, hi, how you doing? You got a question. There's a little utility that we're going to try out today that allows me to take your chat message and put it right there. Right there, right where you see that number right now. We'll move that number out of the way, and we'll put your question in chat. So if you're in chat right now, go ahead and maybe give a question. Just say hi. Tell me I'm off base. Just throw something in there so we can throw this up on screen, and we can try that out. Moving along, let's see here. This guy, you're familiar with him. Jeffery Epstein, who it's almost been about a week now, turned up dead in his jail cell in the Metropolitan Correctional Institution down in New York City, a federally run prison. He was found dead. It was assumed, based on the information that they had, that he had committed suicide. However, that is, we're calling that apparent, or alleged suicide, because even though the autopsy has come down, we still don't have complete information about what medical examiners call manner of death, manner and type of death. They're still trying to determine that, because there's a lot of evidence that seems to suggest that he didn't kill himself. And frankly, I will tell you, I would have to agree with them. And I'm not alone. Many other people do as well. We're finding that a lot of folks, in fact, have even gone beyond that with conspiracy theory. A lot of conspiracy theories. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. But he was, if you recall, he was accused of sexually exploiting a lot of minors under the age of, let's say, 18, even 20, between 2002 and 2005 in New York and Florida. And some of the girls were as young as 14 at the time. He was charged with one count of sex trafficking on this current charge. And one count of conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking of minor. He was facing a possible 45-year sentence. Now, one of the reasons that people suspect that something is strange here is the number of people that Jeffrey Epstein hung out with. He hung out with a lot of people, a lot of famous people too, a lot of rich people, some people who some might suggest don't want to see him in jail or in court talking about them, talking about what they did some night at some party down the street in somebody's backyard. I don't know. They just don't want all that information out. So people have come to the conclusion, or many people have come to the conclusion, that some of these people maybe got together and figured something out for Mr. Epstein. Now, we've heard a lot of things. We've heard that, A, he didn't kill himself. That's the strongest theory at this point. I've even talked to people who said, look, he's got enough money. Remember, this guy's a billionaire. It's estimated that somewhere between, I don't know, 700 million and $1 billion that this guy had, maybe even more. He had the funds to do what he wants to do, no doubt about it. So again, people would think that he could take that money and do just about anything he wants with it. I've even talked to people who said that it would be within his ability, within his financial ability, to change his appearance radically. They even did a movie about that once. Remember? I don't know if you remember. It was John Travolta and forget that guy's name. I'll remember his name in a second. John Travolta, another guy, and they get together, and one guy's good guy, one guy's bad guy, and the bad guy made it possible to switch faces with the good guy and take his identity. That's what people are suggesting, saying Epstein has enough money to do that. Who knows? Who knows? But the people he hung out with are some top shelf people. Here he is with attorney Alan Dershowitz. And Dershowitz, from what I understand, and I haven't talked to Dershowitz in years. Yeah, I do know him. I'm from Massachusetts, originally, Boston. Hi, Boston. I see Boston in the chat. Boston, if you're in the chat, just say hi. Do something so I can try that out. I see a couple of people there. Anyway, Dershowitz got him some entry to Harvard University. Dershowitz is a professor, a longtime professor. I think he's tenured professor at Harvard University. And for some reason, Epstein was just crazy about mingling with the folks over at Harvard. So Dershowitz got him into Harvard, got him in with the folks, in with all the mucky-mucks up in Harvard. And he really loved that. This is Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew, in this picture, in this photo that you're seeing right now, two things are of note. The woman that Prince Andrew is with is alleged to have been one of the young women. And she was about, if I recall, 14 at the time. I don't recall her name, and I don't have it written down here. But she was one woman who was alleged to have traveled the world with Epstein, and who Epstein casually and regularly made available to a number of people, including, allegedly, former Ambassador Bill Richardson, again here, Prince Andrew. The woman in the far background with the black hair is Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell was Epstein's longtime companion, and again, alleged, madam, I'd even go so far as to call her a pimp, if allegedly. But the story that's come down was that she was the one, along with a couple of other women, who would go out from time to time, find these young women at local high schools and community centers, supermarkets. Who the hell knows? She'd go out in the street. Hey, come on. Hey, come over here. Got a rich guy down here. Money. Want you to give him a massage. You down with that? That's what Ghislaine Maxwell would do. And so people have been looking for her like everything this side of Sunday. We'll talk about her more in just a minute. And again, there you see the Prince Andrew. We don't know the date of that photo, but there he is with old Jeff. And of course, the one person that has been associated with him, the highest tier person that's been associated with him, then Donald Trump, now of course U.S. President Donald Trump, and they apparently were longtime friends, knew each other, and hung out a lot. In fact, at one point, Mr. Trump, was not even alleged to say, this was tweeted some years ago in 2002, and what he said was, quote, this is Donald Trump speaking now from a tweet. Tweet's gonna get you in trouble. You know that? Tweet is gonna get you in trouble. No doubt. Keep it up. Anyway, quoting Donald Trump now, back in 2002, quote, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. He's even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Many of them are on the younger side. End quote. Donald Trump, 2002. Hold on a second here. One more picture of all three of them. Again, Ghislaine Maxwell over all the way on the right there, besides Jeffrey. That, of course, the current First Lady, Melania Trump, and Donald Trump. I believe that was his girlfriend at the time, all hanging out. So, the one huge thing, I want you to watch this, and if you got any kids in the room or some people who you think this may not be appropriate for, I want you to get them out of the room now, because this is kind of tough stuff. The chief accuser of this is a woman named Jennifer Arauz. She filed a lawsuit Wednesday, I believe it was, shortly after his death, accusing Epstein's estate, alleging she was assaulted at 14 years old, and she wants to stick it to this Ghislaine Maxwell. And so she's very unhappy about what's been going on, how this all turned out. But just to give you a sense of who she is and what happened to her, let's see. This is number 2. Take a look at this.
Actress. She was thrilled when she was accepted to a performing arts high school in the city. And it was outside that school back in 2001, she says, a woman first approached her.
She was definitely trying to get to know me. trying to find out, where I was from, where I grew up, who I lived with.
Rose says the woman kept showing up, talking to her, sometimes offering to buy her lunch or a soda.
The first time she brought up the name Jeffrey Epstein, how did she describe him to you?
He was just a great guy. He's just saying, he's helped me. I've struggled. She was similar to me.
Did she say he could help you with your career?
That was a big part of it.
And when you think of her now, you used the phrase, you said the recruiter. You felt like she was looking for someone for him.
100%, yeah.
Rose says the recruiter brought her to Epstein's townhouse, just blocks from the school.
When you first met him, what did you think? What did he say?
Very nice. Basically saying that, he's heard a lot about me. The recruiter was talking such nice things.
Rose says she was served wine in Epstein's kitchen, and they talked. When she left, she says she was given $300 and was repeatedly invited back. She says after a few weeks of visits, she was escorted alone to what she says Epstein called his favorite room in the house, the massage room, and things turned physical.
In that moment, it didn't...
At that moment, yes.
Strange to you.
But at the same time, I was scared, too, because I didn't know if he would get angry, or so I kind of just followed. I would have just my underwear on, because that's how he liked it, so. And I would just get massages back, and then he would potentially later on turn over and play with himself. And he would also like when I would play with his nipples. He used to get turned on by that. And then he would finish himself off, and then that would be the end of it.
When Rose turned 15, she says things took a turn.
Just take your underwear off and get on top. And I said I didn't want to. And he, very forcefully kind of brought me into the table, and I just did what he told me to do. I was really scared. I didn't necessarily think that he was, going to rape me.
Did he hold you there?
Yeah.
No question in your mind, he knew you did not want that to happen.
Oh, yeah. No, he definitely, yeah. There was no way. I was like, I don't want to say I was screaming or anything of that nature, but I was terrified, and I was telling him to stop. Please stop,
And did he?
No, he did not stop. He had no intention of stopping, and that's what he wanted, that's what he got.
When you left there, you never went back?
After that day, no, I never went back. I was terrified. I was really scared, because I didn't want that to happen again.
In your mind, did you use the word rape? Did you recognize it then as rape?
No, I don't think I did. I just thought, it's my fault. I was, obligated. That's just what you're supposed to do. So I really did not know better.
When did you stop blaming yourself?
It was a long time, really.
That's Jennifer Roars. Again, she filed a civil lawsuit Wednesday against Jeffrey Epstein. She is probably the most vocal critic, you can't even call it critic, accuser. One of the people who he allegedly abused and caused abuse to for many years. You'll hear more from her soon. And that's in an interview we should mention from the Today Show with Savannah Guthrie. Savannah Guthrie doing a wonderful job there with the interview. So let's talk about now what may or may not have happened with this person. Again, he was at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. You see here the Correctional Center. It's a very secure place. Nothing too wrong about this jail in the middle of New York City. Kind of looks like an apartment building, but it is a federally secure prison facility. There's no way a person should be subject to taking their own life in a prison of this nature. Particularly because, remember, just the week before, Epstein had been rushed to the hospital with injuries that suggested that he may have tried to commit suicide earlier. He was released from the hospital soon after. It was determined, or at least from some of the story that he gave, that he was assaulted by the cellmate who he had at the time. Cellmate denied it. The story was never very clear, but what was clear was that he was in trouble in one way, shape, or form. And so they put him on suicide watch. He remained on suicide watch for most of the week. At some point, he was taken off. And just last Saturday, he was found hanging in his jail cell with a bedsheet wrapped around his neck. They say secured to the top of a bunk bed that was in the cell there. There you see a picture for those of you who are conspiracy theorists and go, I didn't see a picture. I've never seen a picture of the guy dead. He can't be dead. He ran away. Somebody put a shirt over him, put a hood over him, got him out of the prison. Well, folks, I don't know. You tell me. That looks like Jeffrey Epstein to me, being wheeled out of the Metropolitan Correctional Center shortly after he was found unresponsive. Now, keep in mind that he was a convicted pedophile from an earlier conviction some years ago. We won't talk about that and get into the weeds about all that. He was about 6 feet tall. So what you have to imagine is in a jail cell. It's not very big to begin with. There's nothing at the top of the cell to tie anything to. The nature, sorry if we get a little graphic here, the nature of hanging oneself or person being hung is that you do two things. There's two things that happen. You cut the airway off, as in strangulation. And if it's done from a particular height, there is a violent motion that will break the bones in your neck, your cervical bones and many other bones as well. You come flying down, and then when that rope catches you, we've seen that in movies before, and it breaks their neck or strangles them. To do that, you need two things. You need, first of all, you need a strong rope or something to tie so it won't break. And you need height. From what we understand, neither of which were available in this prison or in this prison cell. Again, he had a bunk bed. You tell me, have you ever been near a bunk? If you're an adult, even an average size adult, how much larger is the bunk bed than you? Let's say an average size adult is maybe 5'8", 5'7". You can put your arm on the top of the bunk. No big deal. Can you actually make a rope that's going to hang you so that you're suspended from the side of a bunk bed? Bunk beds just aren't that tall. What they said he did, let's see if I can find this here. I don't have it in my notes, but I read that what they said he did, he tied it to the bunk of the top of the bunk, and then leaned forward, and then took his legs out from underneath him. Well, that doesn't make sense either, because remember, you think about it. You think if you got something around your neck and it's starting to strangle you, and if you can at all put your feet up underneath you and stand up to relieve that pressure, you'll do it. You'll do it through involuntary action. You won't even have to think about it. It's just a matter of survival. I think even if you wanted to take yourself out. The other thing, too, is if your hands are free. You know, you ever see any of the Westerns? When they're stringing people up, string them up over there by the tree. Hang them high. What do they do? Your hands are tied behind your back. Why? Because if your hands are free, you're going to grab this and pull it. Again, another involuntary action, just human nature. So he couldn't tie his hands. His hands were free. He wasn't far enough off the ground to really suspend himself. You've got to suspend yourself. So it just didn't make sense. It did not make sense that what they were telling us was true. Late this week, we get a autopsy report. And it's not a complete autopsy report. It's kind of incomplete. But what it did do was, and this was reported by the Washington Post, it reported that Epstein's hyoid bone was broken in his neck. Let's get a look at that. That's the hyoid bone. That little green thing you see there. Let's get a close-up. It's just above your Adam's apple, just below your jaw. Didn't even know it was there. I didn't know it was there. I've never heard of it before. But apparently that bone was found broken. And what the medical experts say is that a broken hyoid bone can happen in both strangulation and hanging, but it occurs more often in strangulations. Now, there's a little back and forth going on about this, but to help clarify this, take a look at this. This is an interview done with Bill Hemmer, his Dr. Mark Siegel on Fox News, who explains the autopsy results, which are still inconclusive. They still haven't come to the conclusion as to whether or not he was strangled or he committed suicide. So we're really not quite sure of that yet. But what they did find about this hyoid bone made them think that it could have been one or the other. Take a look at this. It's Dr. Mark Siegel.
Or whether it was suicide, which is what's coming out right now. The hyoid bone in the neck being fractured and other fractures in the neck make it more likely, and again, this is a percentage call, more likely that it was a homicide than a suicide, but it can be both. It can be either, rather. It can either be a suicide or a homicide still. That hasn't been confirmed. I am now more suspicious than ever that this could be a homicide, number one, because of the bones. That answer is going to come to us, Bill, because if someone is attacked, you see signs of the attack on the body. That hasn't been discussed yet. It hasn't been released yet. I'm waiting to see that. If someone holds you down and strangles you, you see evidence on the body, bruises. Now, my source, undisclosed source, is not going to go into that right now.
Bet he won't, because he doesn't have complete information. What do you think? What with this additional information, at the very least, I would say there's no way that he committed suicide. Just no way. Just didn't happen. And anybody who believes it is a fool, frankly. They're trying to make us buy a set of goods that just don't exist. That, if we want to keep that metaphor, just cost too damn much and just does not make sense. I mean, come on. I was born at night, not last night. It just doesn't make sense that that he would commit suicide. What does make sense is that there are a lot of powerful people, and again, we're not suggesting some of the people we saw earlier, all those associations that he had with people like Prince Andrew and President Trump before he was President Trump, when he was just Donald Trump. All associations. He had associations with a whole lot of people. So we're not speculating or saying that any one person or any collection of people got together and put together money for a hit on him, but somebody did. You know, someone did. Someone didn't want this guy talking and made sure that he wouldn't be able to talk. You disagree? Call me now at 443-505-7560 if you want to weigh in and get a difference of opinion in there. If you disagree, if you really think you think he committed suicide, it's bullshit. He didn't commit suicide. Just bullshit. Anyway, back to the hyoid bone. That hyoid, that broken bone, doctors will tell you, medical experts, often used as evidence to determine whether a victim was strangled. The fractures are the reason the cause of death has been deferred pending investigation. So we won't see any of that anytime soon. In the days leading up to his death, a number of other things happened as well. He told one of his lawyers before they left on Friday that the day before his death, which was Saturday, he told his lawyers, "I'll see you Sunday." He seemed to be thinking forward. You know, people who unfortunately commit suicide very often will foreshadow that. They will tell you, I'm not gonna, I'm not making plans tomorrow. Something's gonna happen. He didn't do that. During his meeting with the lawyers, again, it was reported that, and those happened every day, 12 hours a day, he was reported to be positive. He was also confident that he was going to win the double jeopardy motion in connection with his 2008 Florida conviction for prostitution, if you recall that. That was the earlier conviction that he had underwent. That conviction, he was given a short jail sentence and allowed out of jail on work release every day, like went to his office. And he got picked up in a car, and the car drove him back to jail. It was nuts. That's a whole different conversation. We don't want to get into this. But again, as I said before, I'm of the belief, and I don't think this is conspiracy theory. I've talked to some weird conspiracy theory folks. I mean, some real tin hat shit about changing your face and the fact that they snuck him out of jail and he's like living someplace now on another island. I'm not going with that. But if you've got a conspiracy theory, I'd love to hear from you right now. 443-505-7560. Even if you just have an opinion about this, I'd love to hear it. He was, and again, this is the other thing, the other crazy thing. He was put on suicide watch. Then, and that was after that July 23rd episode where they had taken him to the hospital, and he alleged that his cellmate had beat him up or some garbage like that. They had put him on suicide watch at that time, and rightfully so. And at some point took him off of suicide. They took him off of suicide, so the night that he died, he wasn't on suicide watch. Again, the correction officers who were watching him, who were supposed to be watching him, they're supposed to do a welfare check every 30 minutes. Frankly, I think somebody like that should be on a baby cam monitor 24/7. Somebody sitting in front of the monitor looking. It just doesn't make sense that you don't take an eye off this guy. But they had, the guards had stopped watching him. Two of the guards, one of the guards was not a full-fledged officer, and neither guard had checked on Epstein for several hours before he was discovered. Somebody arranged all this to get Epstein out of the way, because Epstein had a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. It was to the advantage of a number of very powerful people, and again, not alleging who, not even talking about the people that we had highlighted earlier. There are many other people that he knew as well. He knew a lot of people, and he had a lot of money, and those people did not want him to talk, and so they made sure that he didn't, and he won't. Well, before we go into that, one more clip here from Siegel, who talks about some of the. This is Dr. Siegel. Dr. Siegel, who we heard earlier talking about the autopsy report. He also suggests that the arrangements in the jail cell that night just didn't make sense. Take a look at this.
Watch situation, which is shocking to me as a physician who has dealt with severely depressed and suicidal patients. 6 days on a suicide watch. Prison officials reportedly removed it. Prison officials guided by who? What self-respecting psychiatrist would say, Okay, he's no longer suicidal. There was evidence on July 23rd that he may have done something to his neck, or someone did. Right then, suddenly, 6 days later, he waves his hand, says he's fine, and he's put in an area where ultimately he's unobserved because, as you know, people fall asleep and they falsify records reportedly. This situation, and then there are sheets in the room that you can hang yourself with, and there's a bunk bed. This situation smells.
Yeah, it smells all right. More than smells. One last note here. Ghislaine Maxwell, who you see here, his longtime companion and alleged associate, alleged madam, pimp, if you will. She's been in hiding. Nobody's been able to find her for a while. It was suggested or reported that she was in Massachusetts living with a gentleman who she was now going out with. Very nice place in Massachusetts, probably up by the New Hampshire border. Very familiar with it. And people were looking for her high and low because, again, the accuser that you saw earlier wants Maxwell to take the fall for some of this, take the fall for a lot of it, and some other people as well. But she is the principal. She is the people who accuse Epstein also point to her, Ghislaine Maxwell, as the person who was the prime contact in recruiting them and currying them for this awful experience with Jeffrey Epstein, and they want her to pay. And so she's kept a low profile until recently. She was spotted just this past week in Los Angeles. She's 57 years old now. She was found sitting alone at In-N-Out Burger. I don't know if you're familiar with Los Angeles, but In-N-Out Burger, very popular burger place, much like a Five Guys or such. And everybody goes there. And apparently Ghislaine Maxwell goes there too. She was caught. Somebody found her, saw her sitting there. When they saw her, they ID'd her, introduced themselves. She had her dog in tow, and she was quoted as saying, "Well, I guess this is the last time I'll be eating here." Yeah, I'll bet. It's a crazy situation. It really is. We don't know where it's going to be resolved yet. We're waiting now for the autopsy report, for the conclusive autopsy report. My guess is that they will essentially call it a suicide because that's how things go in these circles. We've seen this before. Things get covered up. They make you believe the illusion that you're seeing in front of you. What I suggest is that you don't, is that you look a little deeper, is that you trust your gut, because I know your gut's telling you. Some people, yeah, he committed suicide. Yeah, right. What do I feel down here? This don't feel right. No, it doesn't. It doesn't feel right. So trust that. Trust that. In 35 years as a reporter, the one thing that I've learned is that a healthy degree of cynicism, skepticism, is always good. And 75% of the time, there's some truth to it. There's some truth to the areas that are very cloudy. And once you clear some of the clouds away and shine some light on it, it kind of reveals itself to be what it always was, which is the truth. And it is sometimes hard to find, but it is definitely not hard to believe. So with that, we'll put an end to it. We've been out here now, gosh, for about 45 minutes. For you folks who came in chat and just too scared to pick up the phone, I thank you for coming in and joining us. Again, we're here every Friday at about 7. Sometimes we get, sometimes not. We're mixing it up. We're playing with a lot of things here and trying things from time to time, trying to grow this audience. So, again, we appreciate your company, and we thank you for watching, and hope you'll be with us next Friday, right here and now. Till then, enjoy the weekend. Take care.